Hello. Back with Steven the Visualizer, shooting another video for my Journey series. This is episode 10, where I'm going to talk about the concept of surrender and the dark night of the soul during my spiritual awakening journey. Yesterday's video was all about my first leap of faith, where I was compelled to quit my job, cancel surgeries I had scheduled to fix my sleep apnea problem, and come off of all the medications that were keeping me alive, and put my trust and faith in God that He would take care of my finances and my health. I did that with very little hesitation. And I mentioned how afterwards, shit wasn't an easy journey, particularly with the finances and worrying about what would happen to my housing situation. So in between there were some other things happening that chronologically I wanted to bunch up into this video that really had to deal with the topic of friendships. So I got to go kind of way back. So mentioned in previous videos that I've faced depression for a large part of my life, very low self-esteem due to traumas that happened earlier in my childhood and my teenage years. I'm really turned off from the world, stopped trusting people, stopped opening up to people, and my friendships suffered because of it. I faced a lot of betrayals in my 20s. People that I thought were my day ones that I really poured into, just basically left me for dead. And that was tough. And then for my entire 20s and most of my 30s, I was basically in hermit mode. I focused on my work and my career and school when I was still in college. And I just came up with this concept like, listen, I'm not worthy of anything. I hate my life. All I'm going to do to be helpful is I'm just going to be helpful to other people. So the people that were still around me, very limited family, because that was splintered, and then the few friends and coworkers, I just tried to be there for everybody whenever anyone needed a favor, or when friends needed, to get something off their chest, or, vent about their, lives, their work, their girlfriends, wives, kids, whatever. I was the guy. If you ever needed to hit me up and get a session of video games in with me, or just whatever, I arrange my life around that. And what that's really known as is people pleasing, is putting everyone before yourself and not really pouring into yourself. And I consciously did that because I just didn't think I was worth anything. And gradually, that sustained me for a while. That gave me purpose, if you will. But eventually that shit grows old and you start hating yourself even more. It's, just kind of snowballs. So again, I had really one close friend locally through all this. We had been longtime friends. And that was kind of just enough to have one relationship, one person I could talk to. And we never really talked about anything really deep. I never really opened up much with him. It was very surface level. And I carried him kind of throughout my entire life. And then in my 30s, I met a bunch more guys, and really put myself out there, and we vibed and bonded over shared interests of playing video games. In particular, we played FIFA, and we played pro clubs together, and it was a very cooperative thing where we were all take a player on each team, and the vibes were good, and we had a little group that grew over time. And as with all groups that I've ever been involved with, whether this has been family, friends, work, whatever, I've always seemed to be the glue that brings people together, just keeps the vibes good, and is able to kind of connect people with different personalities and smooth things out, and just make sure people get along. And I've really always poured into everyone equally, and I think that's kind of what has given me that ability to kind of connect people. So I poured a lot of effort into this group in my 30s, this FIFA group, and we just became close. And eventually the group filtered out some bad apples, and we settled, and there were 13 of us in total. And going into last year, they were my closest friends. We had a little group chat, as most groups do. We would hang out and play video games most nights and just shoot the shit. And that was just good because, there are a lot of guys my age that don't have many friends at all. And the fact that I had 12 friends that I trusted a lot was invaluable to me, because, I would have sank even further into my depression and self-hatred if I didn't have that. So where I'm going with this is during the spiritual awakening, near the beginning, when I was very preachy, I had a falling out with my best friend, the local guy that I had been friends with for over 30 years. And, we aired out a lot of things that had never been aired out. I had a lot of kind of underlying tension with him for a long time. And after that kind of, blow up, I really gave it a lot of thought. And then I started seeing signs from videos and music that were basically telling me, like, watch those closest to you, they can't be trusted anymore. And I'm like, okay, and the blow up was, significant, but I didn't think it was enough to really strain our friendship that much. It was just nice to be honest with him, to be honest. And then a couple days later, it just was really on my mind. Intuition was hitting me, you need to do something about this. I'm like, okay, what? And then I came across a song. I can't remember which one it was. It was some hip hop song. It was a diss record, and it was you need to shoot this person before they shoot you. And they described the person as someone that got kicked out of school when they were in grade school for being too stupid. And that's actually exactly kind of what happened to my best friend. And I'm like, oh shit, that's who you really want me to take action on? So I ended up ending my relationship with him. And to be honest, it wasn't really an emotional thing because it had built up a lot of tension over the years, and I didn't like the way the last kind of conversation went. So I cut him off. And I'm like, okay, that's a sacrifice, whatever, it'll be for my better good or whatever. And then as I continued along in my spiritual journey, I started getting more messages from the God videos that I was watching every day. And it was you need to tighten your circle. The people that you're around are too negative for you to come with you moving forward. You have greater things to do, and you have healing to do. And I'm like, okay, can you point out who it is? Again, and I didn't get any kind of guidance. And I really enjoyed the company of all these guys, these 12 guys that I hung out with. Again, I was still people pleasing, and I poured into them so much over the years. Again, man, the things that I did kind of just mind share and to help them out were innumerable. And I think they would all account for that these days, despite what ended up happening. So kept pushing on me, and it was and finally I got a message. It was you're not going to be able to move forward until you take a stand and cut these people out of your life. I'm like, okay. And this is in my whole be obedient to God and faith ship. So I talked to them, and I started noticing they were very negative, because again, the world is a cold ass place, and they were very pessimistic, and boys will be boys kind of shit. But it was, to be honest, a lot of immaturity coming from guys that were in their 30s and 40s. And I just kind of started seeing maybe these guys aren't for me. And then I started looking back at all that I gave to them over the years, and really thought damn, did they ever reciprocate much? Did they ever do anything nice for me, look out for me? And I couldn't really recall very much. And I'm like, shit, that was a startling realization. It was man, these people that you call your friends, and again, this is after me just cutting off my best friend for kind of a similar reason. I really needed help at a time, and this guy was supposed to be my best friend, and he really wasn't able to step up to the plate. And I started noticing similar patterns with these other people that I really felt good about. And then honestly, just they were good for a time, but at this point in my journey, they weren't for me. So I just explained to them what was going on, and I ended up cutting them off. And then a week or two went by, and I got a message you can try to make it work with some of them if they're willing to meet you and be more positive and cut out some of the really negative stuff that's going on in their lives. And I basically re-linked up with them, and I gave them kind of a soft ultimatum. I was hey, God told me I can stick with you guys if you just turn around and kind of take a more positive spin on things. And some of them were pretty receptive to that. They were yeah, dude, we'll do our best, because again, this is going back a decade friendship with them of dealing with them every day. And then after a few days, I just noticed people fall back into their ways, and I was just compelled again, and I got more messages and signs, and this was signs from multiple kind of different areas again, and it was it's not going to work. And this time I was very resistant to this because I was like, give them another chance. Like, and I was on this whole thing, like, never leave anybody behind. I was still on having kind of like this savior complex where I was like, man, like I can help these people so much now. Look, all that I know, and like, you know, the good that I'm doing, like, let me try to like take my time and like bring these people along and help them see things like I do. And I was told that like, absolutely no, like, this is like, you need to give these people up. And I got super fucking angry at God, like, and just threw a tantrum and like couldn't understand. And at the same time, he was like, yeah, you have a lot of like interests and hobbies that are destructive, that like are not serving you either, and I need you to give them up too. And I'm like, fuck, like, how much do I gotta give up, bro? Like, I quit my job, like I was about to get my sleep problem fixed medically, and I gave that up. You know, I gave up my best friend. Now I gotta give up like everybody that's close to me pretty much, and then give up my hobbies. And I was like, what's gonna be left of me after this? Because my identity was unfortunately within other people. That's how I saw myself. Again, I was the guy who was always there, the great friend. I didn't have an identity other than that. And then most people, you know, they identify themselves through their hobbies and their passions, and that's not really who we are either. So I went to a dark place. The depression set in. I really didn't want to give up these people again permanently, and I just didn't know what to do, because I was like, man, you're just asking too much. Like, this fucking sucks. Like, makes me feel horrible. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna be alone, I'm gonna be isolated, not gonna have shit to do. What do you want me to do? Just fucking read the Bible 24/7? And I was just going through it, man. And I just fell into the deepest, darkest hole I've ever fallen into. And basically just really didn't leave the house for like 3 or 4 days. Just everything I could do in defiance to God, I started doing, just to like lash out. And eventually, man, I was just tired. And there was a concept that kind of kept getting hammered home in other different videos for mentors that I started watching, and it was the concept of surrender. And that's basically like, you know, let the chips fall where they may. You have goals and dreams, outline them, but you can't control how we get there and when it happens. You have to leave that in God's hands, or the universe's hands. And I was in a dark hole, and I really I started planning my suicide very meticulously. And I was 1 day away from that, and I basically prayed to God, and I was like, listen, I don't even know if you're gonna let me go through with this, because I didn't even fully understand the concept of free will, which I'll talk about in another video later. But I figured, like, man, like, since I was so chosen, I would probably try to go commit suicide, and like he would prevent me from doing it somehow. And I was like, man, don't prevent me from doing this. I'm done. Like, I'm tapping out. This is too much to deal with. And then I finally relented, and I prayed, and I was like, please help me. Like, do something. Clear my mind of these suicidal thoughts. Like, help me understand, like, what the fuck is going on? What do you want from me? And like within 5-10 minutes, my mind cleared, and I like just had more clarity. And I was like, okay, like, that happened really fucking quick. And I was able to recover, and I just accepted that this was the path, and I just stuck with it, and I just stayed away from these friends. We had a kind of really long talk before there, so it was a gradual letdown, not as much as when I cut off my best friend. But yeah, that was just another leap of faith, sacrifice that I had to give up on this journey. And you know, looking at this 6 or 7 months later, I don't regret what I did. And again, you can think of this, friendships are tricky, but you will go through your lives and change out the people that you're close to a lot, especially when you are progressing. So I didn't have the same friend groups from when I was young, and most people don't. You know, you don't carry friends through your grade school and high school and college and young adulthood. You constantly are evolving, and you're bringing new people into your life. And in order to do that, you have to have space, time, and you know, room to be able to interact with these people. And if you continually carry baggage around that's not really for you, then you're not going to have time for these new people that are better for your life. And I cherish all the time I had with all my friends groups going back to childhood. They've all taught me so much, and we shared so many good times. But the time, the season, the cycle for that friends group had to come to an end, and that really opened my time up to do a lot more self-improvement, self-reflection, really figure out who I was and pour into myself rather than other people. And that taught me valuable lessons. And then eventually it opened up the space for me to attract new people into my life that were more aligned with what I wanted to do, which was change my life in a profound way. And this is kind of a never say never thing. I've, some of the guys that I've let go have touched base and reached out and been gracious and stuff. And some of them, I can tell, like, I completely, hurt them with, what they probably look at as a betrayal. And that's fine, because not everything is meant to be, perfect. Sometimes hard lessons have to be learned. So it is what it is. But yeah, so that's what happened. That kind of period where I was down and out and considering suicide, it doesn't always happen in that drastic of a manner, but most people in their awakening do go through something called the dark night of the soul, where it's their real kind of first test, if you will, of how far they're willing to go. Are you willing to take this all the way? And I have been, and I've come a long way since that time. Faced a lot more adversity, but I've overcome all of it, and now I'm coming out on the other end. I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and just blessed to be here. All glory and thanks and honor is yours, God, for getting me this far. And yeah, I'll cut it there because we went pretty long on this one, but thank you for checking me out. Have a great day. Peace, love, and light.